U.S. and Chinese officials prepare for high-level trade talks. Netflix is rolling out its biggest home screen update in over a decade, and a new announcement regarding the name of a familiar body of water. Plus, today's trivia question, which U.S. state was the first to recognize Mother's Day? Well, the answer will be at the end of the show. It's Thursday, May 8th. This is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Good morning, I'm your weekday host, Ayla Brown. Thanks for flying with the Flyover Podcast. Keep sharing, liking, and commenting, and let's just take off with the three biggest headlines of the day. We're starting with a major global development. U.S. and Chinese officials are heading into high-level trade talks this week in Switzerland. The meetings will run from May 9th through the 12th, and they come at a time when tensions are high between the world's two biggest economies. Right now, the U.S. has imposed tariffs of up to 145% on Chinese imports, and China hit back with 125% duties on certain American goods. Representing the U.S. at the talks will be Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, while Chinese Vice Premier He Lingfeng is leading the delegation on Beijing's side. This is actually the first high-level sit-down since President Trump's second term began in January, so there's a lot riding on how these talks go. Interestingly, China just announced a set of big economic stimulus measures, including interest rate cuts and looser lending rules, likely an attempt to stabilize their economy ahead of negotiations. So we'll be keeping an eye out on how that plays out. Meanwhile, back in Washington, President Trump has made a last-minute change in his pick for U.S. Surgeon General. Originally, he had nominated Dr. Jeanette Nesheiwat, but this week, that nomination was withdrawn, and in her place, he tapped Dr. Casey Means. Trump cited her, quote, impeccable credentials, and it's worth noting that she's already well-known in the health and wellness world. She co-authored a best-selling book in 2024 called Good Energy with her brother, Callie Means. That name might sound familiar. Callie's the health advocate who reportedly helped connect Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after last year's assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. Now, Dr. Casey Means is expected to work closely with RFK Jr. on a national health initiative focused on reversing chronic disease. As for Dr. Nesheiwat, she won't be leaving the administration entirely. She's reportedly shifting into a new role within the Department of Health and Human Services. And finally, if you've noticed Netflix looking a little different on your TV screen lately, you're not imagining it. The streaming giant is rolling out its biggest homepage redesign in over a decade. For the first time since 2013, the main navigation menu is moving, shifting from the left side of the screen to the center. Now, that might sound small, but it's part of a much bigger overhaul aimed at making the user experience faster, more personalized, and just generally easier to use. And behind the scenes, Netflix is deploying smarter algorithms to refresh your recommendations in almost real time based on your browsing, your mood, and your habits. And for now, Netflix says it has no plans to raise the prices again. Here's today's major political headlines. The U.S. government is planning to deport a group of illegal immigrants to Libya using a military aircraft. But Libya's provisional government is pushing back. Officials say they were never consulted about the deportation plan and are rejecting the use of Libyan territory altogether. The move is drawing criticism from human rights groups and raising diplomatic concerns, especially given Libya's ongoing political instability. In other international news, President Trump is expected to announce a symbolic but controversial change during his upcoming visit to Saudi Arabia. The United States will officially refer to the Persian Gulf as the Arabian Gulf or Gulf of Arabia. The term is preferred by many Gulf allies but fiercely opposed by Iran, making this a potentially provocative move that could stir tensions in the region. Back in the U.S., a new clause buried in New York State's budget is getting attention. The legislation allows certain public officials, including Attorney General Letitia James, to tap into a $10 million fund to cover personal legal expenses. That includes any legal fees tied to investigations into alleged fraudulent real estate dealings. Critics say the use of public funds in this way raises questions about transparency and accountability. And finally, the last undecided race from the 2024 election has been called. Republican Jefferson Griffin has officially conceded the North Carolina Supreme Court race to Democratic incumbent Allison Riggs. A federal judge ruled to include disputed ballots, giving Riggs a 734-vote lead and securing her seat on the bench. With that, the 2024 election cycle is now officially wrapped. For more updates on these stories, you can find them in today's email edition of The Flyover. Sign up for free at jointheflyover.com. We're brought to you by Picasso. You know Zillow, right? It helped millions of people buy their first home. Well, the guy who co-founded Zillow, Spencer Rascoff, is at it again, this time with a company called Picasso. He's even said he wished everyday investors had the opportunity to invest in Zillow before their IPO. So here is your chance to get in on Spencer's next big hit. Picasso's reimagining the way people buy vacation homes, and it's already made serious waves. Over $1 billion in real estate transactions and $110 million in gross profits. But here's the thing. You can invest in Picasso right now, just like you would in any other company you believe in. Shares are currently available at just $2.80, but that's changing May 29th. This isn't some far-off idea. Picasso's already operating in 40-plus markets worldwide, helping everyday people co-own luxury homes in dream destinations. If you want to be a part of what could be the next big thing in real estate, head to invest.pacaso.com to learn more. Again, that's invest.pacaso.com, or click on the link in the description below. Still ahead on the flyover, Russell Westbrook trades slam dunks for startups. The Cowboys add a big name to their roster with hopes of shaking up their offense. And NASA might be heading to Mars sooner than expected, thanks to a $1 billion boost. Don't go anywhere. Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of money, markets, and big business. Angie shares soared 36% on Wednesday after the home services marketplace crushed expectations in its first quarter earnings. The company reported stronger revenue growth and better than expected user engagement, two areas analysts had been watching very closely. That surge made Angie one of the day's biggest stock movers. The Federal Reserve, as expected, held interest rates steady in the 4.25% to 4.5% range. That's where they've been sitting since December. In their announcement, the Fed pointed to recent market volatility as a reason to stay the course for now. All eyes will be on future inflation data to see if a rate change is coming later this year, though. Disney stock jumped 10% after the company not only beat expectations on revenue and profit, but also dropped a big surprise. They're opening their 7th resort park, this time in Abu Dhabi. The move signals continued global expansion for Disney's theme park business, which has rebounded strongly post-pandemic. And finally, it's part sports and part finance. NBA star Russell Westbrook is entering the startup world with a company called EaseWell. It's a tech platform using AI to help families navigate funeral planning, curating service options to streamline what can be a really overwhelming process. It's a surprising space for an athlete to step into, but Westbrook says it's personal and he's aiming to bring more dignity and ease to end-of-life planning. Here's a quick rundown of what moved on Wall Street yesterday. It was a solid day on Wall Street, with all three major indexes closing in the green. The Dow led the pack, rising 0.70%, followed by the S&P 500 with a 0.43% gain, and the Nasdaq up just over 0.25%. On the flip side, Bitcoin dipped slightly, down about 0.65%, and gold prices also slid nearly 1%. Overall, a positive day for stocks, even if crypto and commodities took a breather. Here's what's happening in the world of sports. The 2025 U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Hall of Fame class has officially been announced, and it's packed with legends. tennis great Serena Williams, skiing champion Bode Miller, and iconic Duke basketball coach Mike Krzyzewski headline the list of inductees. It's a star-studded class honoring athletes and coaches who've left a lasting impact on their sports and the Olympic movement. Some friendly competition off the field for a change. New York Giants legends Eli Manning and Michael Strahan have both submitted bids to buy a minority stake in their former team. It's not clear yet who has the upper hand, but both Super Bowl champs are hoping to take on a new role as part owners. Over in the NBA, Oklahoma City Thunder general manager Sam Presti has been named Executive of the Year. The award comes after the Thunder posted a league-best 68 wins this season. Presti had previously been runner-up for the honor 3 times, but this year he finally takes home the trophy. And in NFL news, the Dallas Cowboys made a splash by trading for wide receiver George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pickens is just 24 and entering the final year of his rookie contract, giving the Cowboys another weapon as they look to boost their passing game heading into next season. There's always something that seems to turn heads in science and technology. NASA might be heading to Mars sooner than expected. The agency is considering launching rockets to the red planet as early as next year, thanks to a new White House budget proposal that includes an extra $1 billion dedicated to Mars exploration. If greenlit, it would mark a major acceleration in the U.S. space timeline. For something a little more futuristic, British artist Isla just released the first commercially available song created using quantum-powered generative AI. The track is called Recurse, and it was built from her own vocal and instrumental samples run through a quantum machine learning system. It's an eerie blend of music and tech that could signal where creativity is headed next, and you can all listen to that song by going to today's email edition of the Flyover. And after 5 decades in orbit, a Soviet-era spacecraft called Cosmos 482 is finally expected to make its return. Scientists say the probe could re-enter Earth's atmosphere this weekend, with the debris expected to fall somewhere between 52 degrees north and 52 degrees south latitude. Now, that covers a big chunk of the planet. The spacecraft originally launched in 1972 as part of a failed mission to Venus. Now it's time for the Rotator, and it's that time of the week, Throwback Thursday, where we dig into the past for stories that are surprising and nostalgic. So here are a few more headlines that remind us just how much times and trends have changed. First up, a new list is going viral for spotlighting 19 things that used to be totally normal, but are now considered luxuries. We're talking about stuff like affordable housing, living on one income, and even buying furniture that lasts longer than a college semester. It's a snapshot of how the American lifestyle has shifted, and maybe a reminder to appreciate the small things like drawers that don't collapse after 3 uses. Meanwhile, baby name trends are taking a very charming turn. The hottest picks for 2025? Old school names like Aretha, Wilma, Florence, Lucille, and Hazel are climbing the charts. It's mid-century chic meets modern-day crib, because apparently what was once grandma's name is now peak cool for Gen Alpha. And finally, if you're dreaming of summer, there's a photo collection making the rounds that captures vacation moments from the 1980s through 2013. Think sun-soaked beaches, disposable cameras, remember those? And matching family t-shirts. It's a beautiful reminder of how universal and timeless the joy of summer travel really is. Still to come on the Flyover, there's smoke coming from the chimney, but do we have a pope yet? Plus, how long is your morning commute compared to everyone else? And with Mother's Day around the corner, we're throwing it back to the U.S. state that started it all. Don't go anywhere. Here are some extra stories that didn't make the top, but definitely still important enough to share. We'll start with an update from the Vatican. Black smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel chimney on Wednesday night, signaling that no pope was elected on the first ballot. That means the conclave will continue today as cardinals regroup and vote again on who will succeed Pope Francis. And maybe it will be today. Out at sea, another U.S. Navy jet has gone overboard. This marks the second FA-18F Super Hornet lost from the USS Harry S. Truman in the Red Sea within just 1 week. Both pilots in the latest incident were able to eject and were safely rescued, but the $67 million jet still has not been recovered. An Ohio woman was arrested Monday after police found her pet raccoon, named Chewy, sitting in the driver's seat with a pipe during a traffic stop in Springfield Township. Let's just say the pipe was not one used for tobacco, but you can see the picture for yourself in today's email edition. I will just leave it at that. And in Australia, a massive grasshopper swarm is giving off serious plague vibes. Drivers in Queensland reported millions of the bugs blanketing roads and farmlands, with one guy even capturing a video of them smashing into his windshield. Farmers are bracing for crop damage as the swarm spreads. It's time for the polls, and if you went to the newsletter, this was the question. Do you have your real ID yet? Here are the answers. 79% of you said yes, 17% said no, and 4% said, real what now? Now, my household is split. My husband does not have a real ID yet, and I do. And I feel like that is totally how our marriage goes sometimes. We're into different things, but also I am the over-preparer, and my husband, well, as you can see, he still hasn't gotten his real ID yet. But before I start a fight, let's mosey on over to today's poll question. How long is your morning commute? There's 5 different ways to answer. Is it 30 minutes or less? 60 minutes or less? Over an hour? Who commutes? Or other? Now, I'm very lucky because when I come to the studio to do this, it's actually only about 5 minutes from my house. In fact, I have never had a long commute to work. But maybe you do. Vote on today's poll by going to jointheflyover.com. All right, have you been thinking about the trivia question? I sure have. Which U.S. state was the first to recognize Mother's Day? I will say my husband had no idea what the answer was, but here it is. The first state to officially recognize Mother's Day, that would be West Virginia, where it all began thanks to a woman named Anna Jarvis. Back in 1908, she organized the very first celebration in the town of Grafton to honor her late mother, who had spent her life caring for other moms. After her mom passed away, Anna pushed for a holiday to celebrate mothers everywhere, and West Virginia made it official in 1912. So if you've ever sent a card, flowers, or let your mother sleep in, you've got West Virginia and Anna Jarvis to thank for it. That'll do it for today's Flyover Podcast. Thank you so much for listening and spending a few minutes of your morning with me. If you liked what you heard, make sure you follow and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your shows. And hey, please don't keep us a secret. Share the podcast with a friend, a coworker, or someone who loves news that doesn't waste your time. I'll be back tomorrow with some top headlines, sharp updates, and stories you won't hear anywhere else. Until then, thanks for flying with us.